Ant Davis makes Ole Miss better, and Lane Kiffin gets a huge win with this commitment. We will explain next on the Locked On Ole Miss podcast.
You are Locked On Ole Miss, your daily podcast on the Ole Miss Rebels. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to the Locked On Ole Miss podcast, the most watched Ole Miss podcast around. I'm your host, Steven Willis, a 10-year veteran member of the national media with Yahoo Sports and a former Ole Miss staff member. On today's show, we are going to talk about the backup quarterback, Trinidad Chambliss, and why he's likely to carve out a role even with Austin Simmons being the clear leading quarterback on the team. We'll also spotlight a few surprise names from the first week of fall camp that kind of popped off, even if we didn't expect them to. But first, Ole Miss just landed a massive commitment over the weekend. Anthony Davis out of Grayson High School in Georgia. Lane Kiffin is now 2 for 3 in his current recruiting run of major players, and this is a big one. All of that and more right now on the Locked On Ole Miss podcast. We are free and available on all the podcast apps and on YouTube. Thank you for making Locked On Ole Miss your first listen every day, and a special hello to the everydayers who make the show what it is, and that is the most fun way to follow Ole Miss sports. Do us a favor and like the video, comment on the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel. It costs absolutely nothing, but keeps all of this free. And don't forget to check out a second listen on the network. Nearly every team, college or pro, is ready for you and at your fingertips. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONCollege, all one word, for $20 off your first purchase. The name on the tip of everybody's tongue right now is Ant Davis, the linebacker out of Grayson High School in Georgia, committed to Ole Miss over the weekend. There was one of two big-time commitments. This one Ole Miss got, the other one Ole Miss did not, but this is a big get for the Ole Miss Rebels and for Pete Golding. He is a 6'1", 205-pound linebacker out of Grayson High School in Georgia. Ole Miss beat out Michigan for his service. He also had a concrete offer from Alabama and Auburn, and he took official visits to Michigan and Bama after he finished the Ole Miss visit. Ole Miss was kind of early getting in on this player, and Ole Miss was able to fight off Alabama and Michigan for his services. They did a pretty good job of honestly keeping this under wraps, even though whenever you heard anybody talk about it, it's like, this is the linebacker with Isaiah Williams that Ole Miss wants. If you could give Ole Miss any linebacker, it was Ant Davis and it was Isaiah Williams. Those were the two players that Ole Miss most wanted if you were coming from what the coaching staff wanted. So Ole Miss got their 1 and 2 options on their linebacker board if this sticks. Again, Isaiah Williams right now is on everybody's flip watch, but until he flips, he hasn't. So we're going to count Isaiah Williams and Anthony Davis as potential linebackers for the future for Ole Miss sports. Now, this player, he was rated by a 3-star on Rivals. He was a 4-star on 24/7. He was a 4-star on ESPN, and he's a 4-star consensus top 299 level player. The 20th linebacker in the entire country, the 38th player in the state of Georgia. It works out. Like I said, this is a guy that Pete Golding and Lane Kiffin really wanted. It was a name that kept kind of popping off the page of how you could make it work. Ant Davis, if you look at his highlights, which we showed you last week, he was in on every running play, every passing play. The linebackers at Grayson this year is going to be absolutely insane. But Ant Davis coming in, he has the athletic ability and all of that to get going. He reminds me a lot of Serdarius Bryant, if you remember that name. Bird Bryant was always around the football, always making plays. He was a little bit undersized of a player, but his athletic ability was off the charts. Serdarius Bryant, Bird Bryant, that's kind of my comp right now. We have to see what Ant Davis does if he gets into a college training table type situation as far as weight getting put on the prospect. But Ant Davis coming in, that's 2 out of 3 players in this current run that Lane Kiffin has been able to land. And I talked a couple of weeks ago that Ole Miss needed to do well. The next couple of weeks were going to be the difference between a good and a great class, a great and an elite class, depending on how they do. And right now, Lane Kiffin has landed 2 out of the 3 of those major players. He landed Craig Tutt from Murfreesboro, Tennessee. And now Ant Davis from Loganville, Georgia. The player that they missed out on was going to hurt a little bit because he's a really good player, is Deuce Geralds from College Park, Georgia. If that sticks, that's okay. But finishing in the top 2, that's going to be important for players that go elsewhere because of the number of transfer portal opportunities that are currently available. Right now, it is 9 times to sign a kid after signing day. It's not over. It's never over, and especially not over with the commitment. You're worried about flips with Isaiah Williams and Craig Tutt and Ant Davis. Well, everybody's worried about that because of what the situation is in college sports. It used to be, hey, you signed with somebody, you had one opportunity to transfer, but if you transferred, you were viewed as damaged goods if you left. So signing day was everything. That doesn't exist that way anymore, honestly. The next player that is going to pop up on the radar that we need to pay attention to is Jace Matthews out of Greene County. He is somebody that has visited Ole Miss, but everybody needs to remember about Jace Matthews. LSU is closer to home. Auburn is closer to home than Ole Miss. Ole Miss needs to view this like an out-of-state type recruitment. But he has visited Oxford multiple times, and Ole Miss is putting a lot of work. Now, he is enthralled with LSU's wide receiver program and somehow analytics-based that they are selling basically the prospect on. And Auburn's collective has really gotten onto things after the collectives found their way back in a week ago or so. So my point is, there are things working in other directions than Ole Miss at the moment. And if Ole Miss goes 2 out of 4 out of these 4 prospects, that's still really good and exactly where you want to be, but that is not going to make an elite high school class. An elite high school class involved getting Deuce Geralds and Jace Matthews. A good high school class involves getting 2 out of 4. 3, Jace Matthews, he would be the cherry on top of all of this for Ole Miss. Again, huge weekend for Ole Miss. Lane Kiffin getting 2 out of 3 of the major prospects on the list. That is outstanding. Now we wait to see if Jace Matthews becomes the 3rd or if Lane Kiffin goes to 2 out of 4 with the high school players coming up. So we'll see exactly how that goes for Lane Kiffin. Listen, Ole Miss is heading into week 2 of fall camp, and there are a few unexpected names that are already turning heads. We talk about the surprise standouts coming up next. It's time to fuel up and turn up with a 5-hour energy transfusion. It brings the bold grape, ginger, and lime flavor to your favorite golf drink, minus the alcohol, of course, into a quick, energizing shot. Whether you're sinking birdies or just making memories with friends, this one is a hole-in-one in your energy game. Let's be honest. Some days on the course and honestly off of it, you need a little extra boost to stay sharp and energized. Listen, I've played all over Middle Tennessee golf-wise and saw some weird courses, and whether it was an island green or playing golf badly in a neighborhood, it was always a good time. And isn't that what golf is all about? It's about good times with good people and good flavors, of course. Ginger, grape, lime flavor gives you the best parts of your clubhouse go-to without chasing down the bev cart. If you go to 5hourenergy.com today, that is the number 5hourenergy.com, and use my promo code LOCKEDONGOLF to receive $20 off your first order. This offer is only valid until September 30th on one order and cannot be used with other promotions. This code is no good for subscription orders as well. Whether you're meeting up with your friends or trying to turn 18 holes into 36, get the energizing boost you need to power through. Order transfusion flavored 5-hour energy shots today. You know, it's pretty amazing that we made it through fall camp. Well, didn't make it through, but we made it through 1 week of fall camp. Time is flying so quickly. We are less than 3 weeks away from the first college football game kicking off between Iowa State and Kansas State. And honestly, we were joking about this today with my wife, Becky, and we were talking about, hey, we should Super Bowl party this and do like a Kansas State and Iowa State game and just completely go all in rooting for that and do the Super Bowl party, invite friends over and all of that. So that is where we are. That is how excited we all are for college football. And that is exactly how exciting Becky is right now for college football. But week 1 of college camp, fall camp, kicking off, that's not something to sneeze at. And there's 3 names that are kind of jumping off of the page, for instance, right now. And the first one is Izaiah Hartrup, the wide receiver from Southeast Missouri. He's somebody that I believe was recruited, if that was the same place that Bobby Petrino was before his Texas A&M stint. There might be a little bit of crossover there. I think, I'm not 100% sure, but it was just an eye for talent type thing. Izaiah Hartrup was able to get up a big season, put up 51 catches for 706 yards and 6 touchdowns at Southeast Missouri State, and then transferred away to Ole Miss. Once he got to Ole Miss, he didn't play during the regular season because he was injured during the regular season, and he was able to get a couple of snaps in the Gator Bowl, but he wasn't quite there. This season, anytime the door is open, anytime you hear a name about a wide receiver, it's Izaiah Hartrup. He, in my opinion, has a chance to be this year's Dayton Wade. And what I mean by that is somebody that came from a small school, somebody that stepped up and got playing time and was ultra reliable with what's going on. This is somebody that scored multiple touchdowns at the FCS level. He's had a year to transition to major college football, and he is somebody that is standing out at practice. Now, everybody assumes that Harrison Wallace is going to be the starter on one side. The other side is going to be Deshaun Stribling, and in the slot will be Caden Lee. And we talk all the time about the freshmen that Ole Miss have, and Caleb Cunningham and Winston Watkins, Samari Reed, and Dylan Alfred is having a really good camp as well. But the 3 names that are kind of put together that are going to be competing over playing time, depending on how many people are kind of substituted in, will be an Izaiah Hartrup, will be a Traylon Ray, will be a Deuce Alexander. Those are the 3 names that are fighting to get the most on the field, right behind who are expected to be the starters of this group. Izaiah Hartrup has a chance to make a name for himself. He could be the Dayton Wade of this year for the Ole Miss Rebels. And listen, Dayton Wade, say what you want to. The difference between winning 1-score games and losing 1-score games was kind of Dayton Wade on this field against Tulane, making crazy catches. It seemed like he always showed up at the most opportune time. So it's not an insult to compare anybody to Dayton Wade. Izaiah Hartrup has a chance to have that type of an impact for the Ole Miss Rebels this season. Now, moving on, everybody was talking about, we were talking about the 3 names I was looking at and looking forward to seeing in fall camp. And you hear about Kewan Lacey, and then you hear about Caleb Odom and a lot of the big names. A couple of offensive linemen have made strides in the early part of the camp. I have not heard their name as much as Izaiah Hartrup, but I've heard their name enough that I was taking notice of what they were doing. And the number 1 player is Delano Townsend. He's the offensive lineman interior that transferred in from UAB in the offseason. He's somebody that likes physicality. He was a true freshman playing an awful lot of football for the UAB Blazers. He ended up at Ole Miss. So when you look at Delano Townsend, he's a player that really likes the physicality of football. And last season, in my opinion, and other people have that opinion, Ole Miss kind of got too obsessed with weight. They were just going to get bigger and bigger and bigger. They were the first off of the bust club of what was going on. It was a situation to where you wanted to look like a big-time program more than necessarily play like a big-time program. I think this year, Ole Miss is leaning more towards physicality and athleticism over size. Now, there's still going to be some size there. You're not going to have a 280-pound man playing on the offensive line. But the physicality of a player trumps the size. You're not going to see as many 370-pound players potentially over a 315-pound player. They want players that can do what they're going to be asked. They want players that can handle the athleticism of a zone running scheme where you're going side to side from all the time, over the fact of, hey, it's 4th and 1. We want somebody that we think that can push the player in front of them. That's just the way it worked. They just got a little bit too big. And during the offseason this year, Ole Miss actually took weights off of the official roster for about 3 weeks leading into fall camp. Whenever they measured them, all of a sudden the weights reappeared. So I'm pretty close to being sure about this. Delano Townsend is kind of the number 2 interior offensive lineman, in my opinion. If Patrick Kutas becomes a center, Delano Townsend becomes the right guard. If Patrick Kutas becomes the right guard, Delano Townsend becomes the left guard. He's ambidextrous enough to do it as well. But if you look at the interior of the offensive line, Delano Townsend has made an impression through spring practice and fall camp early on of what's going on. Another player that is kind of standing out in fall camp is PJ Wilkins, a player that played tackle at Charlotte over the course of last season, transferred to Ole Miss. They're playing him right now at guard. He has the athleticism because he was a tackle. We talked about the last player that we talked about, that Ole Miss is going away from all of the big hulking weight necessarily and looking for people that athletically can handle what is going to be asked of them. PJ Wilkins does that and has made an impression. I do not know what the depth chart lies at the moment. The depth chart is a little bit too early for depth chart. Anybody that is doing depth charts, they're kind of guessing. But when you look at these 3 players, including Patrick Kutas and Delano Townsend and PJ Wilkins, it feels like they are the top 3 interior offensive linemen on this team at this moment. That's what it feels like. I don't know if that is the case. Bryson Sanders, other players playing inside at guard, that is going to be kind of fleshed out once they start their preseason games, which if they have not started them already, they will start them Saturday for what it is going to look like moving forward, a much more physical camp and a couple of offensive linemen that basically play the game very physically, and they could be very good at what they do. We'll see. This is a big camp. We talked about this being the biggest camp for John Garrison, the offensive line coach at Ole Miss. Since he has been at least at Ole Miss, he is going to put the 5 best players on the field. So we'll see how this all shakes out at the end of fall camp. But these 3 players had really good starts to fall camp, and we will pay attention to what's going on over the course of camp. Listen, in our final segment, what kind of role will Trinidad Chambliss play for Ole Miss this season? I think it's going to be a significant one, honestly. We'll break all of that down next. We've all been there, logging on early and waiting forever for concert tickets to go on sale, only to lose your spot to a show that you've been dying to see. Live music should be about making memories and not dealing with the stress of ticket shopping. That is where Game Time comes in. Game Time makes getting concert tickets faster and easier than ever. Prices actually drop the closer it gets to showtime, and you can save up to 60% off with their killer last minute deals. And with Game Time, the price you see is the price you pay. No hidden fees. If you're worried about what happens, though, if plans change, the Game Time guarantee has your back with cancellation protection and more. So take the guesswork out of buying concert and show tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. What type of a role will Trinidad Chambliss have for the Ole Miss Rebels in this fall season? He's not going to be the starting quarterback. That feels like it's been wrapped up by Austin Simmons from the jump. Everybody's talking about Austin, about how he could be one of the better quarterbacks in the entire country by the end of the season. But I think Trinidad Chambliss is going to have a role, and I think it's going to be a significant one. And this is why I think that. Last year, you had a quarterback at Ole Miss in Jackson Dart that was pretty much a star. He was. But in short yardage yards or situations, with a 4th and 1, a 4th and 2, Jackson Dart got taken off of the field, even as much as he enjoyed running the football for a specialist. Lane Kiffin is not against using a specialist in short yardage. And J.J. Pekees was the specialist a year ago, and it worked far more often than it did not. Because of that, it tells us that Lane Kiffin and Charlie Weiss and Joe Judge are not against using specialists. And looking at what's going on, they asked about Austin Simmons' running game in the press conference with Lane Kiffin over the course of fall camp. And he said he doesn't expect Austin Simmons to run. And honestly, I don't either. I expect there's going to be a scramble or two, but they are not going to call designed quarterback runs because they do not want to injure this quarterback. Again, I think Austin Simmons has the chance to be a legit 1-1 level quarterback. And when you have that, you do not risk him running the football. So when you remove the quarterback run from the offense entirely, it looks different. The defense knows a little bit more what's coming. It becomes more predictable because the quarterback run is off the table. And it will be off the table because of what we talked about a little bit earlier with Austin Simmons. And like I said, this is the role that I think Trinidad Chambliss is going to play at Ole Miss. Now, he is a true dual threat quarterback. He is a senior transfer from Ferris State, a Division II level quarterback over the last year. Listen, he rushed for multiple touchdowns over the course of the last 8 games of the season. He ran the ball for over 20 touchdowns over the course of the season. He also threw the ball pretty well as well. Trinidad Chambliss at Ferris State was 226 for 367, 2,925 yards, 26 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. This was in 15 games for Ferris State, who I think they won the national championship last season. That's a little bit over 150 yards a game by my math. So you might look at the fact that those are relatively high numbers, and the touchdowns and interceptions, there was about 150 yards per game, which lets me know that he was a running quarterback, a run-first quarterback last season. If you look at his running stats of what was going on, he ran the ball 171 times for over 1,000 yards last season and 25 touchdowns. That's a lot of quarterback runs in the red zone. That's definitely probably a lot of quarterback runs in short yardage. He is a specialist. That is the reason, in my opinion, why Lane Kiffin brought this quarterback in. And that is why I think he is going to have a significant role this season. When you have a quarterback with the athletic ability of a Trinidad Chambliss, why not have some quarterback runs? Why not get creative with the quarterback runs? You have Joe Judge in the office who did a lot of NFL stuff. So you know how he's able to draw up a play on a chalkboard if you get a head coaching job in the NFL. Winning or not, fired or not, if you get that job, you can draw up plays. When you have Lane Kiffin, who is an offensive genius, everybody says so, and Charlie Weiss Jr., who is the wonderkind calling the plays on offense, they can all draw up different stuff, and different people being involved means that it's not going to take time away from Charlie Weiss and Lane Kiffin to draw up a package play that can be used for Trinidad Chambliss. And he can throw the ball well enough to where he can be a weapon on that side of the ball as well and throwing the football. He can do it. He threw the ball at about a 60% clip, even if it is for short passes. When you look at Ferris State a year ago, who is from Michigan, by the way, if you look at Ferris State, you can see how they used him a little bit later on. He was very much not a run-first quarterback when he first started doing it. And once they realized what a weapon it could be, Ferris State basically became unstoppable, including winning the last game of the year, scoring 48 to 50 points. In my opinion, Trinidad Chambliss kind of harkens back to the option quarterbacks of the past, the Scott Frost, the Tommy Frazier, the Jamel Holloways. So whenever you have somebody like that, you need to find a way to make them effective. So it's going to be on Charlie Weiss and Lane Kiffin and Joe Judge to find out how to use this quarterback, because in short yardage, what they do, the Lane Kiffin triple option could be coming back. The Lane Kiffin triple option is the running back on inside zone is the first option. The quarterback running the ball off tackle is the second option. And the third option is actually a pass play, a true RPO triple option that is used in a little bit different way. I call it the Lane Kiffin triple option. He ran it a lot at Florida Atlantic, and I think it might be about to come back. We'll see exactly how that looks and where it will sit. Anyway, thank you for making Locked On Ole Miss your go-to source for Ole Miss sports. We pride ourselves on offering the most comprehensive perspectives, which is why we're the front door of Ole Miss. If you don't believe us, search Ole Miss Podcast and see how many times Locked On Ole Miss comes up. Do not forget to subscribe to the channel, like the video, and comment on the video. It helps the show, and it is completely free. Your support means the world to us. For your second listen, check out the Portal Show. Brian Smith has the latest rumors, portal entries, and signings. Be the most informed fan on the rapid changes around college football's landscape. Find the Portal on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. Hotty toddy, everybody. Remember, analytics is just the old English word that means bad football. We'll see you tomorrow.